follow through buying, follow through selling, or no reaction. So one of the only constants in the market is not change. The constant in the market is human nature. And good news should bring in buying. Why does it not bring in buying? That's what you have to. Constant in the market is human nature, and we play off of that. So if the market's not up on good news, as human nature would dictate, then you sell it. If it's not down on bad news, you buy it. So we're in our buy zone, 17 to 21, a value area low trade, which would have been very hard to put on because the news was negative right here. We did trade back to the green line, and that's our outside in trade. And here's an outside in trade. Took a long time to develop. And because you'd hit the value area high 1, 2, 3 plus times, and you hadn't been able to break it through, crossing the value area was what you would normally expect. Now, we don't have single headline news this morning, but the focus is retail sales. And when you break this level right here, you should anticipate some profit taking, and that would have been good for a trade back to the mean green line too. So there's a lot of ways that you can trade into the news. Profit taking before the news is what we normally expect, and it's what we normally get. Once again, you have the information at your fingertips to make correct decisions. Peak buying is right in here. And from this point on, especially over here, you can see that you get the selling going with you. And so profit taking before news is what took us down into this area. Here's the news. Doesn't really break or spill off of that, but then it does come down, and here we find ourselves waiting to see what's going to happen in the day session of the E-mini. Now, in the day session of the E-mini, because the news was better on a headline basis and you have liquidity, I would anticipate that the E-mini is going to trade higher. But we're going to be in a situation where it does have to trade higher because of the news. And if good news doesn't rally the market, somebody's going to come in and hit it and sell it. And you can see on the E-mini right now that the 50 lot trader is increasing his size. So we're going to key off of this. We're going to see what happens. 17 to 21 is our buy zone. With the problems coming out of the EU, I don't see how they break the market today. Then our backup buy is just where it was on yesterday's close, 9 to 13. And our focus will be the directional movement of the ES. Now, because E-mini is trading higher doesn't mean we buy this or the E-mini is trading lower. We buy this and vice versa on the sell side. We take our setups at the levels that make sense, economic sense, and then if the E-mini kicks in and helps our trade, so much the better. Quick look at F2. The biggest thing on F2 is you're going to see is that this market has a very, very hard time holding the 130.20 area, and the going gets especially tough above 130.28. And it takes news. It takes help from the EU. It takes help from the E-mini, and faster than normal selling in the E-mini, and then in transients out of the EU, you know, we talk a good game, but nothing has changed, nothing has happened. And the bottom line in the EU is that the hard dollars that have been put up are 440 billion euros. No one has added to that. And it takes $2.5 to some people say as high as $3.5 trillion to make the pigs problem go away. And at 440, even if you double it, leaves them, you know, 1.5 to 2.5 trillion shy. So Definitely a P. Volume is moving higher in the distributions. And then right now we have volume being formed right here. For the market to break and sell, you're going to have to trade below 130.08. Otherwise, it can still trade higher. So my guess is we're probably looking at a trading range right now, again with an upward bias because of the problems out of the EU. Okay, taking a quick look at the F2 on the E-mini. Better than expected news on a headline basis. No doubt people will tear into it. If you want the most pessimistic take, zero hedge is where you would go find it. But you can see just structurally looking at this, these splits, $47.50 and 44. So this 44 to 47 area is pretty stout resistance. My guess is we probably, just because of the headlines, we're going to try to take it a little higher off the day session opening. Then if we fail in this 47 to 50 area, we can get short to see if we can bust 43, 44. And if we can't, then we can come out of it. Our recommended sell to give us some room is 44.50, 46.50. Based on the idea that we're in a trading range, and the backup or preferred sells at 49.50, 51.50. We'll see if that happens. I dare say very few people are falling over themselves to buy the market this morning, even after the better than expected retail sales news. Okay, we had good news, better than expected. 45 to 47 is where we've pegged resistance. Can you take a trade in this area? Yes, you can. And the trade from the buy side, which would be with the news, which would be a little more comfortable to take, is that you would lean against this breakout right here. So you'd be leaning against 43, 43 and a quarter. Your stop would have to be definitely beneath that bar's low where the news was. And you could be in and the market has done nothing. Or you could take this 1, 2, 3 with a great deal of loss of momentum, and on this little tiny skinny compressed bar right there, when you break that bar's low, you're in the game at 44, 44 and a quarter, and the market traded back to, looks like 42 even. You had a 42 even, so you could have picked up 4 to as many as 8 ticks off that trade. And this is a good trade. I mean, you can just see the loss of momentum. You can see the compression in these two bars. Volume dries up here. You can see that the selling starts to pick up on these two bars right here. Those two bars. So, I mean, got divergence on this one. Why not take the trade? Well, the news was better than forecast, Charlie. That's true. On a one-day basis and the rest of it, but no one is falling over themselves to get long, and we've got our 3 little impulses up. And I mean, if you are of the local or exchange members' mindset, it's kind of like, well, what the hell? We'll see what happens. Greg, business inventories at 10 o'clock will have no effect on the market. Nobody pays any attention to business inventories. It's a non-factor. We have a couple of pieces of news that are that way. So the retail sales is the news, and I think we can go a little higher, but I don't think it's going to change things or turn the market around, but we'll see. The key, again, as always, is right down here. It's this volume. And if that's increasing, then the market should come off, or at least retest support. Okay, when you look at the hierarchy of news, unemployment news every month is the most important news announcement, period. There is no bigger news than unemployment. Then the next split in the news is either economic activity news or inflation news. And because the Fed has said there is no inflation and they're not going to fight inflation by raising interest rates, nobody really pays any attention to inflation news. So everyone's focus is on economic activity news, factory orders, durable goods, retail sales, all that good stuff to see if the economy is growing or contracting. And then inflation can play. But you know, when the Fed begins to fight inflation by raising interest rates, then PPI and CPI and core PCE will be the market's focus past unemployment. Any questions? Okay, Richard Genders had a question for me, I believe. Richard Genders wanted to know, shouldn't we wait till the day session opens before we aggressively go after the market? That's probably a pretty good idea, Rich. Then you got the full complement of players. Any other questions? But we are in a situation because of the news, the market has to go higher. I mean, that's just the way it is. If it doesn't go higher, the big guys will hit it. Good news didn't rally the market, hit the bids. Just the way it is. But I think they want to see probably 8:45 Central, 9:45 Eastern before we get a read on that. But no one's going to be waiting for the 10 a.m. news business inventories this morning, Greg. Okay, I'll be quiet. Later.